Now for the last in the quick series of airbrush videos, where we're going to put down a base coat and then just lift it a little with some very simple airbrushing techniques. We're going to continue with the Merc Hounds from Madara, because actually they lend themselves to this really well, and we can go one step further than you might on some miniatures. I'm sticking with my cheap airbrush because that's the purpose of this. I have one that's slightly better for fine detail but considerably more expensive. So we'll keep all of this on the same airbrush, so it's the basic setup for what people want. So back to the booth. When you're adding in paint, it gets a little bit more complicated because you need to thin it. And so I'm going to start off just by adding in 10 drops of Vallejo airbrush thinner that I decant into smaller bottles because it's more controllable. Then I'm going to go with some scale 75 Iroko, because the base colour unusually is paler than the top colour. 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. I've turned down the pressure on my airbrush to just under 10 psi for this. Now I'm going to get a brush and just mix the thinner. Just move that out of the way for now, we don't need it. And that's still probably a little on the thick side. So when your paint's thinner, you want lower pressure, but it's more controllable. Wants to be a little bit like skim milk, is what people keep saying. So there we go. We'll blow that back and see how it does. So again, blow back mixing, just hold back, pull back, and that will mix the thinner and the colour, or multiple colours together. Now I'm going to get a plain white sheet and just see how it's going. It's a little splatty, which means it might be a little thick. So again, just a little bit more thinner in there. I'm going to turn on the extractor. Move to the first one, and we're just putting a good overall coat on these, so it's fairly thin. We want it that way, and we're just going to put on several coats. And this is actually where our zenithal highlighting can really pay. So let that one dry for a second, as I've got 3 of them. Again, this is all being deliberately done in real time, just to show how quickly and easily it can be done. It can be quite hard painting this thinly by brush. As this is our base colour, we're coming in from every angle because we want to make sure everything on the miniature gets caught. The biggest headache with airbrushing is actually making things don't get caught. And there are a couple of small bits I might try at the end of this that will demonstrate that. We don't want to leave it that thin. We do actually want colour. Move the white out of the way so that the camera adjusts. We do want colour on the dark side, so but you can see there where you've got the two different colours coming through thanks to the undershading from the zenithal highlight. And again, I'm just going to go through all three with a quick second coat. As you can hear, it's just drying while I'm talking, while I'm doing the next one. I haven't even resorted to turning on the hairdryer. Again, you need to come from every angle or you're going to have areas with no paint. Now that's not critical on some of the real bottom angles, as that will give you really deep shadows, as long as you manage to get the black during your initial stage. One last one. And remember, this is 3 miniatures that we're doing here. Now I'm running low on paint. Quickly, 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't do what I just did and throw your paint in the bin. And go and rescue that in a moment. So again, back mix it. With this, the bigger thing that takes getting the most practice is getting your thicknesses right. How thin or thick do you want your paint? The closer you are, the more it will apply, but you do need to be cautious because you can suddenly apply a large spot in an area you don't want and mess up the work you've been doing. It goes on fairly dry. You don't want it that wet most of the time. You don't want it flowing. You want it to go where directed, so putting a bit more under there. Did that with the others because the distance was not doing that good a job of catching the underside. And last but by no means least, so that now gives you a nice base coat with already some shading in place. A bit more on the side there. But you can go around and look and decide how much shading you want. So you could apply more paint and make it a completely flat coat. Oh, I hear you say, Well, that's just the start of it. So let's clean our brush off. I'm less concerned about being quite as thorough this time because I'm mixing paint to go over the top of what we've just done. Blow it out. And having a little bit left in there will just help blend the two different colours together a bit more. So you can see there's still some colour, but I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to blast out the water because I want to be able to control how thin it is. Now, frequently at that stage you would have gone with a darker colour and be going to a lighter colour, but just to be contrary, these work in the other direction. Now this one I'm going to deliberately make just a little bit thicker because I don't want it to flow. Clean off the brush with the other colour. Again, not so critical on this. And see how thin it is. It's still a little thinner than I want it right now, so add another drop of paint in. That's better. And then get our bit of white. Oh, no. That might be a bit too thick. Better, but still struggling. That's better. Still a little bit of splattering, so I'm gonna there we go. Nice, clean and smooth. So airbrushes are very, very directional. So what I'm deliberately here is going from the forward direction in little bursts. Because all I'm aiming to do is highlight the raised parts. Could probably do with it being slightly thicker with a bit more air pressure. So I'm going to turn up the air pressure and add a bit more paint. Okay, let's try it on the next one. Some people are real experts at this. I'm still learning, so sometimes I get it to do exactly what I want, sometimes I don't. Getting more of that effect here. I think I'm also going a bit heavy, rather than being patient enough and coming back and doing a second coat after it's dry. So let's come back to this one. So this last one's the one that's behaving nicest for this. Practice makes perfect. You can see some of the details now are really starting to come through. Now I'm not dry brushing, though it's very similar to it. Now look at him. Now I haven't really, in the grand scheme of things, spent much time on any of these. Trying to lift this one's details just a little bit. There is an art to controlling where the paint is going, but they just need to finish drying, and that's a nice base coat that really a light wash, because they're creatures that are largely the same colour, possibly a slight dry brush, a little bit of detailing, and they're done. So that's base coating with a slight lift using an airbrush. Quick, easy, like with anything it takes a little bit of practice. That's the end of this video and the fundamentals of this very quick range that I've done. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want more content, click subscribe, click the little bell for notifications when I go live online or for when I post something new. Like the video if you liked it. The more likes I get, the more I'm likely to put out this kind of content. And see you in the next one, and remember, keep painting.